चैतन्य चरितामृत मध्य लीला टेक्स्ट 132 चैप्टर 6 सूत्रेर मुख्य अर्थ नाकरः व्याख्यान कल्पनार्थे तुमिताः करः अच्छादन. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking here to Sarvam Bhattacharya, and he's explaining how Sarvabhauma's explanations of Vedanta Sutra are problematic. He says that Sutrera Mukhya Artha, the primary meaning, the principal meaning, Nakaraha Vyakhyan, you do not explain that, you do not elaborate that. And Kalpana Arthe to me. Kalpana Arthe is imaginary meanings, imaginary interpretations to me. You give imaginary meanings and thus Taha Kar Achhadan. And thus you cover the sutras. This is a continuation of the previous text where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the meaning is the meaning of sutras is clear, but your explanations are obscuring the meaning. So he's explaining how this is happening. He says, how can somebody say the meaning is clear? Well, we just have to take the direct meaning, the primary meanings. So here's Mukhya Artha, as it says. And you are not taking the Mukhya Artha, and then so that's how you are not letting the meaning become self-evident meaning become evident. And then how are you covering it? He says, that is explained in the second line here. Because you are giving an imaginary interpretation which is actually obscuring the actual import of the text. Then further, Upanishad Shabdayai Mukhya Artha hai Sei Artha Mukhya Vyasa Sutre Sabakai. So now Upanishad Shabdayai Mukhya Artha hai. The words of the Upanishad are the essential meaning, the main meaning, the primary meaning of the Vedanta. Sei Artha Mukhya Vyasa Sutra Sabakai. And whatever is the chief import of the Upanishads, that is what Vyasa has said in the Vedanta Sutra. Now the Vedanta Sutra has different names. Sometimes it is called as Brahma Sutra. Sometimes it is called Vyasa Sutra based on its composer. It's called Brahma Sutra based on the fact that its primary subject is Brahma. It begins with Tathato Brahma Jigyasa, and Brahma is what it focuses on. So now the question may come up that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that the Mukhya Artha, the main meaning is clear, how will we know the main meaning? So actually speaking, the Vedanta Sutra is not exactly is not a absolutely independent book, in the sense that it is actually an attempt to to discern and determine the meaning of the Upanishads, the import of the Upanishads. That's why there are implicit references to the Upanishads in the Vedanta Sutra, and the whole discussion in the sutras is about what do those references mean. So the way to understand this is by looking at the sutras and looking at the Upanishads. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is saying that because the Upanishads are giving a particular message, and the Vedanta Sutra is a summarization in succinct sutras of that message. So therefore, there is coherence between the two sets of messages. So, Mukhyartha chadiya kar gaunartha kalpana abhidha vritti chadi kar shabdera lakshana. So, Mukhyartha chadi, you give up the main meaning and kara gaunartha kalpana, and you may add as per kalpana, as per your own imagination, you come up with your own gaunartha, your own secondary or subordinate meanings, and not even subordinate meaning, the imagined, concocted, speculated subordinate meanings. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then, after using these two words, Mukhyartha and Gaunartha, Then he goes to some technical terminology, and he says that the technical terminology that is used specially for talking about the direct or the literal meaning of the text is abhidha. And abhidha vritti chhadi kar shabder lakshana. So lakshana refers to lakshana vritti, where the secondary or tertiary meaning is taken. The actual meaning is neglected or even rejected. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is pointing out the problem, indeed the fallacy, in such a hermeneutical approach. Hermeneutics refers to the method of understanding or interpreting scripture. So, the hermeneutical method that Sarvabhaum has used is in pursuance of the method that the Advaitic teacher Shankaracharya has used. And here Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is pointing out that such a method is faulty, because the primary meaning is neglected or even rejected, and a secondary tertiary meaning that is only pointed to lakshana, that is what is emphasized by them. And in this way the whole intent of the text can get subverted by someone who wants to impose one's own ideas on the text. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu naturally objects to such a strategy. प्रमाणेर मध्य श्रुति प्रमाण प्रधान, श्रुति ये मुख्यार्थ कहे से प्रमाण. Now if we want to understand, now the question may come up, okay, you are saying that we should take the mukhyartha, we should use the abhidha vritti, not the lakshana vritti, not go to the gaunartha, but then how will we determine what is the mukhyartha? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is reiterating the point which he made earlier, and he said that pramanera madhye shruti pramana pradhan, that among the pramanas the shruti pramana is the pradhan, it is the most important pramana. And shruti ye mukhyartha kahe se praman, and shruti ye mukhyartha kahe, what shruti says is the essential meaning, the central meaning, the primary meaning, that is what we need to accept. Now in every field there are authorities that are accepted, and those authority, there is also not just an authority, but there is pramana tartamya, there is a hierarchy of authorities. Just like even in science, say what a physics doctorate student may say is subordinate to what a physics doctorate professor says, and that is subordinate to say what an award-winning scientist says, and that will be subordinate to what say a person who is in the topmost, a world-renowned scientist who is in a panel of the world's topmost scientists will say. So just as there can be and there will be a hierarchy, a taratamya in pramanas in any field of knowledge. Similarly, it is there in understanding the import of scripture also. And he says that we have to focus first and foremost on Shastra Praman. And in Shastra Praman, he says we focus on the Pramana Pradhan. So he says we focus on the Praman of scripture, of Shruti. So Shruti is considered traditionally to be the foremost authority, and that is what we should focus on. जीवेर अस्थि विष्ठा दुई शंख शंख गोमय, श्रुति वाक्य से दुई महापवित्र है. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives an example of how Shruti needs to be accepted even when it at first glance doesn't make sense, because there is a deeper import to it which we may not be able to perceive at our first glance. And what is the deeper import? It says Jivera Asthi Vishtha Dui Shankha Gomai. So now normally bones and excrement are considered impure and auspicious. And normally if people see a skeleton, they shudder. We go to a crematorium, then we come back and first thing we do is take a bath. Similarly, the excrement, and even if after we pass our experiment, we take a bath. So what to speak of some other being's excrement. But here it is said that these two, although they are normally considered inauspicious, but Shankha Gomai, Shankha conch is a the conch that is used, that is a bone, and Gomai, the dung of a cow dung is also the excrement of an animal. Shruti Vakya say Dui Mahapavitra hai. But although scripture normally says that Asthi and Vishtha are impure, but the same scripture says that Shankha and Gomai are pure. And we accept that. Why? Because there are other dynamics involved. So we need to recognize that while scripture gives us rules, scripture gives us also principles that may transcend those rules. And we need to recognize the hierarchy within normal conventional rules and transcendental principles that may supersede those conventional rules. Only when we recognize such a hierarchy will we be able to understand the import of scripture properly. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu here recommends such a recognition in understanding Vedanta also. How he will take this argument further, we will discuss in our future talks. Thank you.